Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Museum Munchkins. I'm Mr. Nick, and today we're going to be talking all about groundhogs, also known as woodchucks. And we're going to start off by singing a groundhog song if you want to stand up on your feet. All right, now this song is called Mr. Groundhog, and it's kind of short, so we're going to sing through it first kind of slowly and learn a couple motions as we sing it, and then we'll speed it up a little bit and see if we can follow along with those motions. Are you ready? Great. So this song goes like this. Mr. Groundhog in the ground. So we're going to make some ground with one hand, and we're going to hide our groundhog inside it with our other hand. So our other hand's going to be our groundhog. Pop your head up. Look around. So we'll pop our head up and look around like that with our hand. Do you see your shadow? So we can kind of look for our shadow like this. Look up high and look down low. We can look up and down. So looking high and looking down. Very good. Mr. Groundhog in the ground. Do again. I'll make our ground and our little Mr. Groundhog in there. Pop your head up. Look around. So we'll pop our head up and look around. Very good. Do you think we can follow along with those motions if we sing our song a little bit faster? Well, let's try it together. Are you ready? Mr. Groundhog in the ground. Pop your head up. Look around. Do you see your shadow? Look up high and look down low. Mr. Groundhog in the ground. Pop your head up. Look around. Very good. Let's try singing it one more time. Are you ready? Mr. Groundhog in the ground. Pop your head up and look around. Do you see your shadow? Look up high and look down low. Mr. Groundhog in the ground. Pop your head up. Look around. Very good. That was an excellent job following along with our Groundhog Song. Now I'm going to set my guitar down so we can talk all about groundhogs. Now, have you ever seen a groundhog before? Maybe you have, and maybe you haven't. Well, groundhogs live around here in North America. I've got my globe here. They live all across North America. They live mostly here in the eastern part of the United States and sort of the Midwest too, and then even up all across Canada. So we don't find them too much in the western part of the United States, but we do find them all across the eastern and Midwest and parts of Canada. So, and they can be pretty big animals sometimes when we see them. So I've got a groundhog here for us to take a look at. So they grow to be between 17 and 27 inches long. So that's about 1.5 feet to a little over 2 feet long. So they can get pretty big, and that's not including their tail that they have. So groundhogs, like I said, are also known as woodchucks sometimes. Maybe you've heard a tongue twister about a woodchuck before. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Have you ever heard that before? So a woodchuck is another word for a groundhog. Now, groundhogs are a type of rodent, just like a mouse or a squirrel. And in fact, they're one of the largest types of rodents that we find here in North America. And they've got these large front teeth. They're called their incisors. They're the same sort of front teeth that we have, except for their incisors never stop growing over the course of their entire lives. They grow about a 1/16 of an inch every single week, which doesn't sound like a lot, but over time, that means in just a few months, their teeth will grow over an inch long. It doesn't seem like a lot at once, but all as it builds up over time, their teeth can get pretty long. So they really like to chew on things to make sure their teeth don't get too long and their mouths get stuck open. Now, woodchucks like to live in wide open spaces near the edges of the forest. So they like a little bit of trees, but mostly they like big open spaces with lots and lots of grass for them to hide around. And that's where they build their dens or their burrows. So they like it where it's a little bit drier too, so the dirt isn't that hard for them to dig through. Now they use their dens for sleeping and raising their babies, and they actually build a second den for themselves to hibernate in during the winter. So they're actually one of the few animals too that does true hibernation in the winter, where they go to sleep for the whole winter. Now their dens can actually get pretty big. So on average, a woodchuck or a groundhog's den is about 6 feet by 6 feet by 6 feet, which is huge. That's pretty big for a little animal like this. And they dig all of that dirt out. But the largest groundhog den that has ever been discovered was 24 cubic feet. That's a huge woodchuck den, a huge groundhog den, and they are excellent at digging with these long claws they have on their front feet. So they dig, they really love to dig. Do you like to dig? When you're going outside and playing, maybe you like to dig in a sandbox or dig at the beach if you go to visit the beach. And right now, with all the snow around outside, it can be fun digging around and making tunnels in the snow, too. Well, groundhogs love to dig. If you like to dig, you're a little bit like a groundhog, because they love to dig, too. And they carry all of that dirt outside that they dig out of their dens, and they place it around the entrance to their burrow. And then they bring down leaves and grass and other things to help make the bottom of their burrow nice and soft and comfortable for them to live in. Now, with lots of predators around for groundhogs, like wolves and bobcats and coyotes and cougars, tons of different things that like to eat groundhogs, they usually stay pretty close to the entrance to their burrows. So if they need to, they can dip back down inside their burrow to get away from them and get out of there quickly. So they will duck back in there if they see or hear or smell anything that they don't like. They'll duck back into their burrow to get away from it, which makes it a little bit difficult sometimes for scientists to study them because they can be a little skittish. But that doesn't mean that they're scared of things all the time. And in fact, groundhogs are usually pretty brave and will really defend their homes and their burrows from other animals, including other groundhogs. And they will do that with barking. They make sort of a barking noise. And they will protect themselves with those claws they use for digging. Now, groundhogs are herbivores. Can you say that word with me? Herbivores. Yeah, so herbivores are animals that eat mostly plants. So they love to eat things like grass and clover and berries, things that are always really close to the entrance to their burrow. Sometimes they'll eat some insects too, but they really love to eat those different types of plants. And since they eat so many plants, like we said, groundhogs are one of the few animals that actually hibernates throughout the winter, where their bodies slow way down. Hibernating is a little bit like sleeping, but it's actually their bodies slowing down and kind of going into a really slow motion. So they usually go hibernating from October until like March or April when when spring comes back and it starts, the food that they like to eat starts popping back up. And when they're hibernating, like we said, they slow way down. So when they're hibernating, their heart only beats 4 to 10 times a minute, and they only take a breath once every 6 minutes. So their body is running really slow. I can't hold my breath that long to only take a breath once every 6 minutes. Can you hold your breath that long? Can we practice and try and see how long we can hold our breath? Oh, it's going to be kind of hard to hold your breath for a really, really long time. Now, humans have a really interesting relationship with groundhogs, and there's actually a superstition that happens on Groundhog Day that says that they can actually help us predict the weather. So for hundreds of years, humans have actually been doing this, where they will see when the groundhog comes out of its den on February 2nd, on Groundhog Day. We'll wait and see when the groundhog comes out, and if the groundhog sees its shadow. And what the superstition says is that if it's sunny and the groundhog sees its shadow, then there will be 6 more weeks of winter. But if it's cloudy and the groundhog doesn't see its shadow, then spring will come earlier. And we actually, what do you think? Do you think that groundhogs are able to tell the weather like that by looking at their shadows? Maybe, who knows? But we actually have a story that is all about that special day, Groundhog's Day. So let's go check that out. All right, so today's story is The Night Before Groundhog Day by Natasha Wing and illustrated by Amy Wummer. "'Twas the night before Groundhog Day, and all through our town, everyone was waiting for tomorrow's countdown, because in the morning, when we all come together, a groundhog will wake up and forecast the weather. If it's a bright sunny day, his shadow he'll see. That means 6 more weeks of winter there'll be. But if it's cloudy and gray, his shadow won't appear. That's what I'm hoping for. It means spring will be here. At school, we did crafts in our art classes. We made groundhog masks. Mine had a bow tie and glasses. We made pop-up puppets with flat sticks and cups. We learned baby groundhogs are called cubs, kits, or pups. We studied our climate, plus the 4 seasons. The weather changes for all kinds of reasons. Then we all voted on what news the groundhog would bring. Everyone but one boy said that there'd be an early spring. I like winter, said Paul. I'm crazy for snow. Not me, I told him. This cold weather has got to go. At home after dinner, we baked special cupcakes. I added on frosting and coconut flakes. We hung our wool hats on hooks with great care. We'll be ready to celebrate come foul weather or fair. That night I burrowed all snug in my bed while visions of groundhogs danced in my head. It's early in the morning, at last, Groundhog Day. It's not sunny at all, but will the clouds stay? My family bundles up and heads to town square, where a crowd's already gathering. There's music in the air. The band starts playing a Groundhog Day song. When it comes to the chorus, the crowd sings along. I look up at the sky. Oh no, the sun's coming out. Come back, clouds, I beg with a shout. Excuse me, says a news reporter. What's your prediction? Spring, no, winter. He reports, we have a contradiction. Grown-ups in top hats soon appear on the stage. The mayor reads a proclamation from a fancy scrolled page. Then we all begin counting backwards from 10, waiting for the groundhog to pop out of his den. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The crowd loudly chants, "Wake up from your nap." The mayor waves her cane and gives the den a good tap. When what to our eyes should appear at last but the official predictor to make his forecast. His eyes so sleepy, his cheeks so round, he finally climbs out from under the ground. Does he see his shadow? The world wants to know. Will there be spring or 6 weeks of snow? I guess we'll have to wait and see. All right, everyone, and now today we're going to be making some little groundhogs popping up out of their burrows to check for their shadows. So for this craft, we're going to need just a few things. We're going to need a little cup. So you could use a bigger cup than this, but this is just the size that I've got here. A popsicle stick, some brown paper, some green paper. I cut mine into a little strip already, and a strip of white paper too. So I'm going to use my white paper to make some snow, and my green paper to make some grass, and my brown paper to make my little groundhog's body. We're also going to need some scissors and some tape. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap my paper strip around the top of my cup to see how big it needs to be. And I want it to go over itself just a little bit. So it looks like right about there is how big my cup is around. So I'm going to cut that right there. And then I'm going to use this same strip to measure out how much green paper I'm going to need too. So we're going to line those up. And then I'll cut that end off there too. Perfect. Now for my snow, I want my snow to be kind of wavy and rounded on the top, because snow is kind of like a big blanket when it falls and covers the ground. So I'm going to make it kind of wavy like that. Up and down, just like this. You can see how it's wavy now. It kind of goes up and down like that, kind of rounded. But now my grass, I want to make that kind of spikier. So what I'm going to do for my grass is I'm going to cut little triangles out of my grass like this. And it doesn't all have to be perfect, but just little triangles like that. Or you could even fold your strip up like this and cut a bunch of them out at once like this, because we're going to roll our strip back out anyway to attach it to our cup. So it doesn't matter if there's a few little bends in it. That's okay. So I'm going to cut all these little triangles out like this. And then when I unroll it, I will have something that looks a little bit like grass. So here we go. Let's open it back up. Oh, perfect. There, I got some grass now for around the outside of my cup. Pull all those little triangles that I cut out off of there. Perfect. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my snow and my grass, and I'm going to lay one over the other like this, just like that. And I'm going to put a piece of tape on the back to hold them together like this. I don't need to put tape all along the outside of it, because I'm going to wrap it around itself. So just that one piece of tape on the back will be enough. Now see, it looks a little bit like it snowed, but the grass is starting to pop through. So maybe we're going to have some more winter, or maybe it's time for spring. Now I'm going to take that paper and I'm going to wrap it around my cup like this, around the top of my cup here. I'm actually going to put a little piece of tape to hold one end to this side of the cup. That'll make it easier to wrap it around like this. There we go. And then I'll put another piece to hold that end on. And then I think I'm going to put a piece on the front too to hold my paper down in the front. There we go. So now I've got a little cup with some grass and some snow around the outside of it. And now I need to make my groundhog. So we're going to I'm going to teach you guys how to draw a little groundhog on our brown paper. So I've got a marker here. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a big letter U, like this. So we can practice some letters too. So I've got a big letter U like that. And I don't want it to be too big because I still need it to fit in my cup. So let's make sure we don't draw our U so big that it won't fit in the cup. So the U is going to be our little groundhog body. Now I'm going to add a couple little ears on top, like that. Then we'll add a little triangle for a nose, two little eyes, two little dots for eyes, and kind of like a W shape for the rest of his mouth. Ooh, and let's add, he's got those big incisors, so let's add a couple of those big teeth. And now we'll add two more little U shapes to make his little paws. Now, let's cut that out. We're going to cut around the outside of his body there. And then I've got my little groundhog. Now, let's take our scissors and we're going to, you can have an adult help you with this. We're going to poke a hole in the bottom of our cup like that. And then I'm going to take a piece of tape and tape this popsicle stick onto the back of my groundhog. And now I can stick him in his burrow, stick the popsicle stick through that hole that we made. And now we can make our groundhog pop up out of his burrow like that and look around for his shadow. So I hope you had so much fun learning about groundhogs with me today. And I hope that you take a look and see if the groundhog saw its shadow and for Groundhog's Day, and if there's going to be more winter or if spring is on its way. Hopefully you join us next week too for another episode of Museum Munchkins.